Before I get into this commentary, I would like to shout out Dee Dee for sending this story to me that is coming from Fox News. And it involves these three people right here, whose names are Paul Sherrod, Jennifer Taylor, and Sheba Taylor. Yes, the one on the far left is a woman. I thought it was a guy at first when I saw the picture, but that is indeed a woman. But these three right here, and this is coming out of Illinois, are basically, they have been charged with beating and strangling a police officer over a traffic stop. And you can tell that there was some kind of a fight that ensued, especially when you look at the guy's face, because he has scratches on his face. It says 2 women and a man in Illinois, second largest city outside Chicago, are facing felony charges after allegedly beating and strangling a police officer who pulled them over for a traffic stop. The Aurora Police Department announced Tuesday that 28-year-old Paul Sherrod, 24-year-old Jennifer Taylor, and 26-year-old Sheba Taylor have each been charged with aggravated battery, resisting or obstructing a police officer causing injury, and aggravated assault of a peace officer. A male officer, whose name has not been released, performed a traffic stop on Sherrod around 10:30 p.m. Monday after he allegedly rolled through a stop sign near the intersection of Plum Street and Randall Road near West Aurora High School, Fox 32 Chicago reported. The vehicle, with 2 passengers inside, later identified as Jennifer and Sheba Taylor, pulled into a driveway at the 600 block of the North Elmwood Drive, and the driver began yelling obscenities out the window, according to a press release from the police department. A woman in the back seat then got out of the vehicle, and the officer ordered her back into the car several times before informing her that she was under arrest for obstructing, police said. Before she was taken into custody, Sherrod continued to yell obscenities, exited the vehicle, approached the officer, and told the officer he would fight him if he touched the female passenger. The officer informed the driver that he was also under arrest for obstructing, and at that moment, Sherrod took off running, and the officer ran after him. A second woman exited the vehicle, and both Sheba and Jennifer Taylor ran after the officers, yelling obscenities as well. It's unclear which Taylor was initially in the back seat during the traffic stop, but police said the female rear passenger approached the officer as they ran, and the officer then turned around and grabbed her arm to take her into custody, but she slipped out of his grip. Both women then began striking the officer with closed fists and kicking his body and head, police said. The officer heard a male's voice and then was struck repeatedly in the head from several angles. The female passenger placed her forearm around the officer's neck and applied significant force to his windpipe, causing him to lose the ability to breathe. Now, doesn't that sound very familiar? Our Aurora police officers are entrusted with keeping our community safe from harm. I'm at a loss for words when an officer is physically attacked from something that would have been a simple traffic ticket, Aurora Police Chief Kristen Ziman said in a statement. We will not allow our city to become a place where criminals feel emboldened and lawlessness ensues. And it's crazy because some of the criminals that they feel are emboldened are the ones working in their departments, but they ain't going to say that though. This type of lawlessness and violence against our police officers cannot and will not be tolerated, Aurora Mayor Richard C. Irvin said in his own statement. This was an act of malice and cowardice, and I will absolutely seek that the perpetrators are prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Let's keep this officer in our prayers, their prayers, as the officer makes a full and complete recovery. Additional officers arrived to the scene and placed the 3 suspects in custody. Aurora Fire Department paramedics responded to the scene and transported the officer to an area hospital. Aurora Police Investigations Division responded to the scene, interviewed the subjects, and gathered numerous pieces of evidence. Detectives presented the case to the Kane County State's Attorney Office, which authorized the felony charges against the 3 suspects. All 3 suspects appear in Kane County bond call Tuesday morning. Bail for each of the Taylors was set at $50,000 with 10% to apply for bond, which is basically $5,000. And Sherrod's bail was set at $75,000, which also had a 10% to apply for bond, which would make his $7,500. Each suspect has a separate court date scheduled in July. Now, going into this, I already read this into a way that I could actually see this. And remember what I was saying when they were saying that he felt like he couldn't breathe, and I said, doesn't that sound so familiar? Let's go back to what happened with George Floyd last year. And other cases where black people have been suffocating or couldn't breathe at the hands of these terrorists. Now, I wonder, are they going to look into the background of the victim, quote unquote? Because if this was the other way around, they'll do a background check on every last one of them if all 3 of them ended up dead, and then try to make up an excuse as to why they're dead. And it would have nothing to do with what happened and transpired that night. I mean, if you're talking about equal opportunity, then it is what it is. And how do you know they didn't fear for their life? Because like I said, black people in America right now are on edge when it comes to law enforcement. Yeah, granted, they're being pulled over for a ticket, but we all know that thing could escalate into something much more. And then what mainstream media will do is they'll take this type of story and run so hard with it to make it seem like black people are the ones who do this all the time, when that definitely is not the case. Like I said, there's a plethora of videos online on YouTube and probably other video sharing sites that will show that PC is notorious for doing exactly what these three did here. The only thing that I will say about this is that they are, all three of them are lucky to still be alive. And I think the reason why they're all still alive is because it was 3 against 1. If this guy had backup during the initial, beating, then, one, maybe no, or two, hell, maybe all three probably would have been deceased. But because it was just one guy there, then it is what it is. And now I think something else is going on too. I think a lot of cops out here are starting to, I'm not going to say a lot of them, because I highly doubt it's a lot, but I think some of them are starting to get scared to have to deal with black people, even as something as small as a ticket, because of their fear of what could happen if they make the wrong move. Like if it was a thing where either one of these individuals would have died and this blew up in the media, they would have made a big deal about it as far as they could possibly go. And then if certain people get wind of it, then it would have been blown up even more. And I think some of them now are scared to even do that. Because think about this. There's a story that came out about this young lady whose name is Breonna Sykes. She was 19 years old. And she ended up getting pulled over. And she ended up getting into like a little mini shootout with the police. And she shot the cop. He didn't die. But, he shot back at her. And she did die. And he gave a reaction that most cops would never do. And that was, he broke down in tears and started crying. I don't know if it's because he did not want to shoot her or engage in that back and forth with her, or because he was in fear that because she's dead, something's going to come about to him that he does not want. So that's why I said that I've never seen that actually happen before. Usually they'll do something like that unapologetically. Like look at what happened with Breonna Taylor last year and her boyfriend Kenneth Walker. They did that unapologetically. Look at what happened with George Floyd and that terrorist Derek Chauvin. Unapologetically, and so many others. But that guy right there broke down in tears after he shot and killed her and realized she was dead, because he probably didn't want to kill her, but he knew he had to do something because she was shooting at him and he did get shot. He didn't die, but she did. And he, like I said, he might be in fear of the backlash that might actually happen or might come his way. But that's just from my observation of it. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this down in the comments.